You call their prosperity a disaster, Congresswoman? Donald Trump's voice cut through the stunned silence of the auditorium, his gaze fixed on the camera lens he knew was broadcasting his words to the nation. You call the new jobs in this state a scam? These people aren't political props, Jasmine. They are patriots, and you will not lie about their success to score points on television. The day began with fire and fury, but the flames were all on one side. Representative Jasmine Crockett was on a warpath. Seated across from a fawning cable news host, she leaned into the camera, her eyes blazing with a righteous anger that had been focus grouped to perfection. "It's not a tax plan, it's a betrayal," she declared, her voice dripping with indignation. Donald Trump has once again sold out the American middle class to line the pockets of his billionaire friends. He calls it the people's rebate, but I call it what it is, a billionaire tax scam. It's a dagger in the heart of every working family in this country. A disaster for our future. The host nodded gravely. Strong words, Congresswoman. Are you saying the president intentionally misled the public? Jasmine scoffed, a picture of performative disbelief. Intentionally? Of course, it was intentional. This is his brand. He creates a fantasy, sells it with a catchy slogan, and leaves the American people to clean up the mess. I will not stand by while he robs the working class blind. We will fight this. I will fight this. For the rest of the morning, she was everywhere. Her disaster and scam sound bites echoed across every network. She stood on the House floor, delivering a blistering speech to a half-empty chamber, knowing the real audience was the cameras in the back. She was confident, arrogant, and utterly convinced she had crafted a narrative that would corner the president. She had defined his signature policy as a failure before it even had a chance to breathe. In her mind, the battle was already won. Meanwhile, in the Oval Office, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the performative rage flashing across the TV screens. President Donald Trump watched a clip of Crockett's interview, his expression unreadable. Around him, his advisors were frantic. "We need a statement, Mr. President," his chief of staff urged, holding a draft. "We need to push back hard. Call her out. We can have a press conference in 30 minutes. Another advisor chimed in. "Our data shows her narrative is cutting through. We need to flood the zone. Get surrogates on every channel to dispute the billionaire scam line." Trump held up a hand, silencing the room. He clicked the remote, shutting off the television. The frantic energy in the room seemed to evaporate into the sudden quiet. "No," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We're not going to play her game. We're not getting into a shouting match with a professional shouter." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the south lawn. "She says it's a disaster for the people. She says it's a scam." He turned back to face his team, a strategic glint in his eye. "So we're not going to tell the country she's wrong. We're going to let the people show them she's wrong." He pointed to his chief of staff. "Get me the plane. Find me a community college auditorium. And get me a list of every small business owner, teacher, and factory worker in Jasmine Crockett's home state who has a story to tell. The town hall isn't happening here. It's happening there. Tonight." The air crackled with a new kind of energy. This wasn't a defense. It was a counteroffensive. By evening, the world's media had descended on a humble community college auditorium in Texas. The room was packed. Skepticism hung heavy in the air. A fog of uncertainty, fanned by Crockett's relentless media assault. Jasmine Crockett herself wasn't there, but she was watching from a green room at a network studio, a smug smile on her face, ready to provide live commentary on the president's supposedly doomed damage control mission. She expected a canned speech, a few cherry-picked statistics, and a desperate plea for public approval. She was wrong. Donald Trump walked onto the stage to polite but reserved applause. He didn't approach the podium. Instead, he walked to a single stool at the center of the stage and sat down, creating an atmosphere of intimacy, not authority. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his tone conversational. "I'm here tonight because a politician from your state, Congresswoman Crockett, has been saying some very strong things about our new tax relief plan. She's called it a scam, a disaster. She says it's hurting you. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. I could stand up here and show you charts and graphs all night, but I don't think that's what you need. Tonight, I'm not here to talk. I'm here to listen. He gestured to the front row. Let's start with Mr. Henderson. David, you own a diner just a few miles from here, right? A man in his late 50s. His face weathered by years of hard work, nervously took the microphone. Yes, Mr. President. For 32 years. David, Congresswoman Crockett says my plan is a disaster. What has it done to your business? David cleared his throat, his voice growing stronger as he spoke. A disaster? Mr. President, for the first time in a decade, I gave all 12 of my employees a raise. The leaky roof I've been patching up for 3 years? I'm getting a new one put on next week. And my waitress, Maria, a single mom, she told me she was finally able to take her son to the dentist. A disaster? Ma'am, he said, looking right into the camera. With all due respect, you have no idea what you're talking about. Next came a young woman, a 4th-grade teacher named Sarah. Her voice trembled with emotion. I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. When I saw the extra amount in my paycheck from the tax cut, it wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. It was enough to finally open a college savings account for my daughter. It's not a billionaire scam to me, Mr. President. To me, it's my little girl's future. One by one, they came forward. A young factory foreman, his voice thick with pride, described how his plant had just hired 50 new workers instead of facing the layoffs everyone had been dreading. A woman who ran a small landscaping business explained how she was finally able to buy a new truck, hiring 2 more local guys to help her with the increased workload. These weren't abstract numbers. They were real lives, real stories unfolding on national television. They were simple, honest, and devastatingly effective. In the green room, Jasmine Crockett's smug smile had vanished. Her face was a mask of cold fury. This is a circus, she hissed to the producer. A curated parade of props. He's manipulating them. But her words lacked conviction. The raw, unscripted emotion of the people on stage was impossible to deny. Finally, Trump stood up and walked to the podium. He put up a single, simple chart on the screen behind him. It showed the job growth and wage increases in that very congressional district over the past 6 months. The numbers are real, he said calmly. But the numbers aren't the story. The people you just heard from, they are the story. He then turned his attention directly to the camera, his eyes locking on the lens as if he were looking right through it at his antagonist. You call their prosperity a disaster, Congresswoman? His voice was low, but it carried the weight of moral authority. You call the new jobs in this state a scam? These people aren't political props, Jasmine. They are patriots who get up every day and work hard to build this country. They are not victims of a scam. They are the beneficiaries of a promise I made and a promise I kept. And you will not lie about their success to score points on television, he continued, his voice rising with controlled power. You spent all day in a TV studio in Washington, D.C., calling their reality a lie, the arrogance, the deceit. To sit in a pampered chair and tell a man like David Henderson that his new roof is a disaster. To tell a mother like Sarah that her daughter's college fund is a scam. It's not just wrong, it's a profound insult to the intelligence and integrity of the American worker. He let the silence hang for a moment before delivering the final, decisive blow. The only scam here is a desperate politician trying to build her career by tearing down the success of her own people. The only disaster is a representative so disconnected from her constituents that she can no longer see their truth. The auditorium exploded in a thunderous standing ovation. It wasn't just polite applause anymore. It was a roar of approval, of validation. The narrative hadn't just been flipped. It had been annihilated. Crockett's carefully constructed house of cards had been blown away by a hurricane of undeniable truth. Back in the studio, the camera was still on Jasmine Crockett. Her face was pale, her jaw tight with impotent rage. She was speechless. She had been beaten, not by a better politician, but by a better strategy, and by the authentic voices of the very people she claimed to represent. Donald Trump was no longer just the president. He was the hero who had intelligently, morally, and decisively defended the honor of the American worker against the cynical machinations of a self-serving antagonist. What did you think of the president's strategy to use real stories to counter political attacks? Was it the most powerful way to win the debate? Share your thoughts on the climax, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.